Boundaries are often misunderstood because people think of them as walls, like you're cutting someone off or shutting them out completely, but that's not what they are. Boundaries are doors, and you are the one with the key. You decide when the door's open, when it's closed, and who gets to walk through. It's about having control over your space, your energy, and your peace. Toxic people test this more than anyone else because they will push, pry, and pressure you until they find a weakness. If you don't have a clear door, they treat your life like an open hallway, coming and going as they please. Boundaries are how you take that control back. The tricky part is that setting a boundary often feels uncomfortable at first. Most of us want to be liked. We don't want to seem harsh or unkind, and toxic people count on that. They bank on the fact that you'll sacrifice your comfort to avoid confrontation. They use guilt, manipulation, or even charm to make you believe that you're being unreasonable for wanting space. But the truth is, boundaries aren't cruel. They are necessary. They protect not only you, but they also set the tone for how others should treat you. Without them, toxic people will keep pushing because there's nothing stopping them. When you start putting boundaries in place, you're essentially teaching people what the rules are for being in your life. And the people who respect you will honor them, even if it takes them a little adjustment. The ones who are toxic will resist. They'll test you harder, push against the door, maybe even try to kick it down because they're not used to you saying no. That resistance doesn't mean you're doing it wrong, it means you're doing it right. It's proof that your boundary is actually holding. Think about it this way. A door only matters if it closes. If it's always wide open, then it's not a boundary at all. Toxic people love open doors because it gives them unlimited access to your time, your thoughts, and your emotions. Closing the door when you need to isn't selfish. It's the healthiest act of self-respect you can practice. And you don't have to slam it. You don't have to explain why it's closing. You just have to lock it when necessary and not apologize for it. Sometimes the strongest boundary is as simple as saying no. Not with an explanation, not with a long story, just no. That one word, delivered with calm confidence, can shut down years of manipulation. It's not about being rude, it's about making clear that your energy is not an open buffet for anyone to take from. The toxic person may roll their eyes, accuse you of being difficult, or try to make you feel guilty, but that's just noise. The door is still yours to control, and you don't hand over the key. Over time, the more consistent you are with your boundaries, the more people realize you're serious about protecting your peace. It's not a one-time announcement. It's a pattern of choices that shows you value yourself enough to enforce it. And that consistency is what makes toxic people back away, because they realize there's no wiggle room, no loophole, no way to sneak through. Your door has become something they no longer control, and that shift changes the entire relationship dynamic. Toxic people thrive on your reaction, and the truth is they are not after agreement, they are after engagement. They don't necessarily care if you see their side, they just want to keep you locked in the cycle with them. Every sigh, every frustrated explanation, every defensive tone you use is like fuel to their fire. The more you give, the bigger their presence grows in your life. And that's why the first and most powerful move you can make is to cut off that supply. It feels strange at first because we're wired to respond, to defend, to prove ourselves right, but that is exactly what keeps us hooked. The moment you recognize that your reaction is their reward, you see how simple the solution really is. You stop playing the game altogether. Think about the times someone toxic has cornered you into a conversation that felt endless. You tried to reason with them, you tried to explain your perspective, but no matter how clear you were, they twisted it, they shifted it, they pulled you back into the loop. That's because they were never seeking resolution. They were seeking your energy. It's a trap designed to exhaust you while they walk away satisfied, knowing they got your attention, your time, and your focus. The cycle repeats because you think you'll eventually get through to them, but in reality, every effort you give only tightens their grip. The shift comes when you stop giving them what they want most, which is your emotional response. It's not about being rude or cold, it's about being intentional. Silence is not weakness. Disengagement is not defeat. These are tools you use to protect your peace. Toxic people read your reactions like a script, and when you break the script, you leave them without a part to play. The energy they expect from you is gone, and suddenly the dynamic shifts in your favor. You're no longer predictable, and you're no longer useful to their cycle. That's when you start to see their influence fade, not because they've changed, but because you have. This doesn't mean you'll never feel the urge to defend yourself again. You will, but it's about choosing not to indulge that urge when you know it leads nowhere. That choice is where your power lies. A calm, steady presence that doesn't rise to their bait is stronger than any comeback you could think of in the moment. It teaches them quickly that the old ways of pulling you in no longer work, and they have two options: adjust to your new boundary or leave on their own. Both options protect your energy. You might feel the temptation to explain why you're no longer reacting, but even that explanation is another form of engagement. The most powerful statement you can make is made without words. It's made in the pause before you answer, in the phone call you don't return, in the argument you choose not to start, in the boundary you enforce without apology. Those actions speak louder than any explanation, because they remove the very stage the toxic person was standing on. Every time you pull back your reaction, you're telling yourself a bigger truth. You're reminding yourself that not every comment needs a reply, not every accusation needs defense, and not every person deserves equal access to your energy. That reminder, repeated consistently, is what builds unshakable peace. It's what makes toxic people realize you're not the easy target you once were. They lose interest because without your reaction, there is nothing left for them to gain. Silence is one of the most underestimated tools when it comes to dealing with toxic people. They thrive on conflict, and conflict requires participation. They throw out insults, accusations, or passive-aggressive remarks, not because they're searching for truth, but because they're searching for a reaction. They want to see you flustered, defensive, or angry because it confirms they still have control over you. When you respond with silence, you take away the very thing they are chasing. It's not weakness, it's strategy. It's the choice to step out of the trap they set and leave them holding their own words without your energy attached to them. Think about how most toxic conversations go. Someone throws a jab, you respond, they twist your words, you defend, and suddenly you're in a spiral that eats up hours of your time and drains every ounce of your patience. You walk away frustrated, they walk away satisfied because they got exactly what they wanted, your attention. But imagine breaking that cycle with nothing more than silence. No argument, no explanation, no back and forth. Just calm stillness that communicates you're not playing the game. That silence is louder than any speech you could give because it robs them of the fuel they depend on. Silence doesn't mean ignoring reality or pretending something didn't happen. It means choosing not to waste your words where they won't be valued. It's about conserving your energy for the places and people where it matters. Toxic people want you to believe that if you don't argue back, you're letting them win. But in truth, the only way they win is by keeping you hooked. Silence isn't surrender. It's walking away with your peace intact. It's sending a message without ever having to raise your voice. Of course, silence is uncomfortable at first. We are conditioned to respond, to fill the air, to defend ourselves when attacked. But there is incredible strength in restraint. It shows you don't need to prove yourself to anyone, especially not to someone committed to misunderstanding you. And the beauty of silence is that it makes toxic people uncomfortable. When you don't react the way they expect, they are left scrambling, trying harder to provoke you, but each attempt falls flat. Eventually they get bored. They realize you are no longer an easy target. The more you practice silence in the face of provocation, the more confident you become in your own control. You begin to see that not everything requires your voice, not every accusation requires your defense, and not every fight is worth your presence. That is how silence becomes power. It turns the noise of a toxic person into an empty echo, and it allows you to keep your peace without ever stepping into the chaos they're trying to create. Respect is the foundation of every healthy relationship, and when it's missing, you feel it. Toxic people often show you right away that respect isn't mutual, but because we care, we hope it will change. We excuse their tone, we downplay their actions, and we convince ourselves that maybe if we try harder, they'll treat us better. But the truth is, when respect isn't present, nothing else matters. No amount of effort, explanation, or compromise can build stability with someone who refuses to honor you. That's why the strongest move you can make is to respect yourself enough to disengage when respect is not being given. It can be hard to accept because we're taught to keep the peace, to work through conflict, to forgive quickly. Those things matter in healthy connections, but with toxic people, they turn into tools that get used against you. They take your patience as permission, your forgiveness as weakness, and your effort as an open door to keep mistreating you. The longer you stay in that cycle, the more you start to question your own worth. That's why disengaging is so powerful. It's not about punishing them, it's about protecting you. It's declaring that your value is not up for negotiation and that you won't keep showing up where you are consistently disrespected. Disengaging doesn't mean storming out or cutting someone off in anger. It can be as simple as stepping back from the conversation when it crosses the line. It can be choosing not to explain yourself when you know the other person isn't listening. It can be deciding not to return the call or declining the invitation that you know will only lead to more negativity. Every time you disengage, you're sending a clear message. I respect myself too much to participate in something that tears me down. And that message isn't for them, it's for you. It reinforces your own boundaries and strengthens your sense of self-respect. The hardest part is that toxic people will try to convince you that walking away makes you the problem. They will accuse you of being dramatic, cold, or uncaring because that's how they try to pull you back in. But disengagement is not about them. It's about you choosing your peace over their chaos. And the longer you practice it, the more you realize that respect isn't something you beg for or chase. It's something you require. One of the most draining traps toxic people set is the need to explain yourself. They press you with questions, they twist your words, they create situations where you feel like you have to defend your every move. And the truth is, the more you explain, the less they actually listen. That's because they were never looking for understanding in the first place. They were looking for control. They use your explanations as openings, finding new ways to manipulate, argue, or wear you down. That's why one of the most freeing choices you can make is to stop explaining yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. It feels unnatural at first because we all want to be understood. We want people to see our perspective and recognize our intentions. But toxic people aren't interested in that. No matter how clear you are, they'll twist your words. No matter how honest you are, they'll doubt your motives. And no matter how much evidence you give, they'll find a way to reject it. That's their pattern. So when you stop explaining, you break that cycle. You take away their ability to keep you hooked in endless conversations that go nowhere. Think about how many times you've walked away from a conversation with a toxic person feeling completely drained, replaying your words, wondering why they didn't get it. It's because they never wanted to get it. That's the difference between a healthy disagreement and a toxic one. In a healthy disagreement, both people are working toward clarity. In a toxic one, only one person is working while the other is pulling strings to keep the power imbalance alive. Recognizing that difference gives you permission to stop wasting your breath. Not explaining doesn't mean you're being dismissive or that you don't care. It means you're protecting your peace and recognizing where your words won't make a difference. Sometimes the most powerful statement you can make is no statement at all. It's choosing not to enter the tug of war that you know will never end. When you stop tugging, the rope drops and the game is over. That's the power of refusing to explain yourself to someone who has no intention of meeting you halfway. This shift also sends a powerful signal to yourself. It reinforces the belief that your worth isn't tied to someone else's approval or understanding. You don't have to justify your choices, your boundaries, or your values to someone who only uses that information against you. By choosing silence over endless explanations, you're choosing strength over exhaustion. You're reminding yourself that you're not responsible for fixing someone else's perception, especially when they've already decided what they want to believe. Over time, this approach changes how toxic people interact with you. When they realize their usual tactics don't work, when they can't bait you into defending yourself or chasing their approval, they lose interest. They'll move on to someone else who gives them the engagement they're after. And while that might feel cold, it's actually clarity. No, it shows you exactly who values your declaration that your life only wanted to drain it. And you decide how much incredibly powerful about saying no without guilt. For many people, the word no feels heavy because we've been conditioned to believe it's rude, selfish, or unkind. Toxic people use that conditioning to their advantage. They push, they pressure, they manipulate because they know if they push long enough, you'll eventually cave and give them what they want. That's how they maintain control, by teaching you to feel guilty for protecting your own boundaries. But the moment you realize that no is a complete sentence, everything shifts. A firm no shuts down years of manipulation because it creates clarity. There's no room left for twisting your words, no loophole to exploit, no endless back and forth. It's simple, it's direct, and it's final. Toxic people will hate it because it removes their power, but that discomfort isn't yours to carry. Your responsibility is not to make them comfortable, it's to protect your own well-being. And no matter how much they push, your calm refusal teaches them that their usual tactics no longer work on you. It doesn't have to be loud or dramatic. In fact, the most effective no is often the quietest one, delivered with confidence and without apology. It doesn't come with a long explanation or justification. It doesn't bend under pressure. It stands on its own. And when you hold to it consistently, toxic people start to realize that the access they once had to you is gone. That shift is where your freedom begins. The beauty of a firm no is that it not only protects you from toxic people, it also strengthens your relationship with yourself. Every time you say no to something that drains you, you're saying yes to your peace, your energy, and your self-respect. It's a reminder that you're not here to be controlled, manipulated, or guilted into compliance. You're here to live with clarity and intention.